Hello, everyone out there. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the actual official first episode of the actual show, the By Design with Dr. Erika video podcast. I'm your host. Yay! The very first time. I'm your host, Dr. Erika, obviously. So thank you so much for joining our show today. If this is your first time joining us, we are like beyond the moon excited to have you here. For those that don't know about me and my platform and who I am, basically my goal is to help professional women find that life roadmap that allows them to rediscover that confidence, to stop letting society say and dictate what we do, step out of our comfort zone, and live our lives by design. Now that may be like easier said than done, right? And when you're on that journey of trying to like really live out of your comfort zone, it can be a lonely road. And that may be because you don't have a tribe of like-minded women around you. So that is why, one of the reasons why I created this video podcast platform, because I wanted to have the opportunity to highlight amazing women that are not only embodying that mindset, but they are living proof that we are not bound by the rules of our titles, our roles, or outside expectations. So again, welcome. This is a very open show. I want to hear from you. We want to see your comments, ask your questions. We want to be engaging in this. So this is your show as much as it is our show. So please feel free to comment in the comments section. Today, we are so fortunate to have on our show Mrs. LaVista Jones, who is a coach and business strategist. And we're going to dive into the topic of making self-care your own, but we're going to also take a little bit of a peek into how LaVista got to where she is today. So, LaVista, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited. And I'm excited to be like the first one for the official like launch of the show. Like, what?
Yes. And I love that because the very first time that I was a guest on a podcast was on your show, Boss Talk. So I thought it was just so poetic to have you as the first guest here. So I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, truly.
Thank you. So for those that don't know the amazingness of LaVista, let me give you a little bit of a background about her. As I mentioned, she is a coach and a business strategist. Her focus is really helping business owners bring order to the chaos of life and business. And she believes that the price of success does not have to come with burnout and broken promises to yourself. As an author, speaker, and community builder, LaVista is leading a movement of business owners who want more from life than frazzled days and sleepless nights. Amen. And her unique magic is helping business owners get stuff done without burning themselves out. She is an Ohio native, and she currently resides in Arizona with 3 amazing guys, her husband, her son, and her fur baby. So, LaVista.
Erika.
You know, like I said, I'm excited to have you on the show. And I have lots of questions for you, obviously, but I'm going to start with a very strange one. As I was, cyber stalking you.
Okay.
In your title, it says LaVista Jones, CLBC.
Mm-hmm.
I can't figure, what is CLBC?
Yes. That's so funny because people always have a question about like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
So that's it's my coaching certification.
Okay.
So I am a certified life breakthrough coach. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that stands for it.
That makes sense. I spent like 30 minutes and I was finding like cannabis something and community leader. Okay. That was my strange question. Now we can get serious now that I have that in my mind to rest.
I should probably put that somewhere. Maybe.
Yeah, if you didn't know by now, guys, I'm not like your normal person. I'm an odd bird, so I'm sorry. But We mentioned, you were from Ohio, the Buckeye State, right?
Yep.
But you live in beautiful but hot Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
How did that transition happen? What took you to Phoenix?
Yeah, so to know anything about me is to know that I am a small town country girl, like you said, from Ohio. And unlike most of all of my peers and like my husband, like graduating from high school, they could not wait to get out of the town that they were born in. I was completely opposite. I wanted to always stay at home. Like everything that I needed was in Marion, Ohio. Like my family was in Marion, Ohio. I kind of had my sights set on like marrying my high school boyfriend, like, and was just going to like set up life in Marion, Ohio. Well, graduating from high school, I didn't have any prospects of marriage, though, like, I was thinking about it. Like, he wasn't proposing to me anytime soon. Like, he was off playing football. So it was like, okay, I guess I need to, like, have some kind of plan B, and went off to school.
Get the memo.
And, my school even was only literally a 45-minute drive from my dad's front door to campus. And so I came home from school and it was like, well, I guess now I need to like get a job. And so I ended up in banking on like the retail side. And then I actually started my company shortly thereafter, like in 2005. But then 2008 happened and the economy just like took a crash. And so I got headhunted by another bank, and for not retail side, but from like the operational side, to come in and set up some infrastructure and things like that. And so it was supposed to be a 4-month contract. And I was like, okay, great. Like that'll help me with like cash flow for the business, yada, yada, yada. I'll take it. And that 4 months turned into 7 years and a transfer from Ohio to Arizona, because I needed to build a contingency team in a state where we didn't have to worry about blizzards and like 13 degree below weather, because, somebody in California that is working with the bank in that department that I managed didn't care that you've got 4 feet of snow and can't get to your office. I still want help. So we needed to have a team that the weather wasn't going to be impactful in that way, and Arizona seemed to be it. And so then I was brought out here to build that team, and I've been here for 10 years now.
Okay. Yeah, that's a different environment.
Yeah.
That's a huge different environment. But okay, so
yeah, it is.
You said you started in banking, right? But you have a degree in biology and psychology.
Yeah.
How help me understand.
Well, let's connect the dots, right? Okay. So, I talked about, going to school is kind of like my plan B. And my dad would always joke with people, even though I was a double major, biology and psychology, like, well, what's she studying? And he's like, she's there to get her MRS degree. And people are like, well, what kind of newfangled like degree is that? And he's like, her MRS degree. And they're like, what? Because he always knew. I mean, when people would ask, like, that's what I wanted to be, a wife, and I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a homemaker. And so it's funny, like I met my husband in college. So it's like, I mean, I kind of did get my MRS degree, just not while I was in college. But quite honestly, going to school really was like my plan B. I only applied to one school. I applied late. I did everything that I could do within my power to actually not go, like applying late. And it's like, it's past the deadline. They're not going to take me. Like I picked like this private liberal arts school, maybe 2,000 students total, thinking like, there's no way in hell, like I'm going to get there. And not only did they like accept me, even though I applied like hella late, they waived like my application fee and all that stuff for me to apply, acceptance, full ride scholarship, everything. So it was like, well, all right, I guess I'm going to school. And so the reason that I actually studied bio and psych is actually tied to a tragedy that I dealt with. My mom was murdered when I was 12. And up until that point, graduating and going to college, her case was still a missing persons case. And so I was like, well, I've got time and I've got some motivation. I'm going to go to school. And my goal at that point was I was going to be a behavioral analyst, and I was going to solve my mother's murder. But by the time my sophomore year in college rolled around, they took the man who took her life to trial and sentenced him. And so I no longer needed to do that. And so when I came home from school, it was like, well, at that point it was just, let's just get a job and kind of like sustain, being able to live and be like a functioning adult. I didn't, I had no other aspirations to like continue with that line of education at that point, because she had already received justice at that point. So I didn't need to do it.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And so then you kind of left that and went into banking and ended up at J.P. Morgan, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. So that's still, so a lot of the conversations that we've had on this show have been about career transitions, right? Mm-hmm. And in giving your intro, we talk about you being a coach and business strategist, but you're at J.P. Morgan in banking.
Yeah.
Was it something about banking that was something missing in that setting, or what kind of made you want to do something different?
What I did during my time at JP Morgan Chase, it was more of like the analytics stuff. So like I've always been a math nerd. Like I love to analyze, like there's kind of just part of like my nature. And so what I was initially tasked with was like in 2008, when the economy took a dive, the company as a whole started getting all of these inquiries from customers like all across the country. Like, we don't know what to do with our house. We can't afford our mortgage. Like they're like dropping keys off at branches. And these are retail offices. Like they are trained to cash checks and open checking accounts and maybe get you a car loan. That's about it, right? Like they are not tasked or trained to deal with like modifications on mortgages or even equipped with a customer coming in and like throwing a set of keys on the counter, like, here's your house. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? And so they weren't ready for that type of influx and inquiries coming in. And so they needed somebody to come in and help set up that infrastructure. And so it's just kind of a thing. I've always been wired to kind of see gaps in things. Like even as a kid, like somebody would explain stuff or like even like doing something like an assignment with like a teacher, and I would do it the way they told me to do it, but then like I would tell the teacher like there's a better way to like do this. This and this instead, like this would be so much easier for everybody. And so it's like I was kind of like that little pain in the ass, like there's a better way to do this, like as far as I can remember. And so that
get over
it as a kid, it actually went over okay. Surprisingly, most of the adults in my life were they were open to someone giving them help, right? Like, hey, there's this kid who's saying that like if we did this instead, it might be easier. First, I think they wanted to just like let her. She thinks she knows how to do it. Let her do it, and then like I would do it, and it would be better. And it's just like, oh, well, okay, like that's an improvement. We can go with that. And so it was a role that I actually did a lot of like my like grade school and like even in high school. Like I worked at my we only have one high school like where I'm from.
Okay.
And so I worked at our administration building like for the schools like in our system, and I would help like the secretaries and like the admins like with projects because sometimes they would be overloaded, and it's like, oh, like this, what are you trying to do? Like this is just a more efficient way to do it. And then like I would help them do it so they could get it done and get it done quicker for the school board or whatever. And so when the headhunter reached out and was like, this is the job, and I'm like, oh yeah, like that sounds cool, because it was a problem, and it was just like I can solve it. I can come in and I can put some infrastructure in place and put some processes in place, and yeah, easy peasy, 4 months, that's cool. But then, like more fires, we call them fires, like kept cropping up. And it's like, well, now we've had like this federal regulation that's come in and it's changed things. And now we need to rewrite this, procedure to match policy. And it's like, yeah, I can do that. And then as we continue to grow, because more and more across the country, we're having issues, like we started opening up centers across the country. And it's just like, well, we've got to have somebody that can make sure that like all these centers are in compliance and are doing all this stuff the same way. And it's just like, yeah, I can do that. Like, this is the way it needs to be done. Here are your steps. This is how we need to do it. And so it was just something like when I talk about my time at Chase, it's, I describe it as if there was like a corporate position, like ever like written for somebody, like that job, it was written for me. And so it's like, when they told me about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome that you kind of knew your gift and your uniqueness very early.
Yeah. But I didn't always think that it was a gift. I for a long time I thought it was quite annoying.
Really?
Yeah. And sometimes like I wouldn't actually share ways that I thought that something could be better, because I didn't want people to be annoyed with me, because it's like, you're sitting here telling me like your idea, and I'm sitting here thinking like of all the ways, like this is wrong and that's wrong and this is wrong and this is how you should do this to like make this happen better. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up, like that's annoying. Like I don't want to always be that person. And so I would keep it on wrap a lot, actually, because I thought of it as like a really negative thing for a long time.
So how did you get over that feeling of your gift being annoying?
I think I was already at the bank, and we had a situation where at that point in my career, I had a team and we were traveling a lot. There was a decision that was made from the higher ups that we were going to stop a process that we were doing. And that meant that my people that were in the field, they immediately like cut off like their corporate cars, they canceled flights, they canceled hotels, they canceled everything. And it's like, it literally left my people stranded. And so, I say a lot that I thrive in chaotic situations. So it was just like, okay, this is not good, but it's not time for me to be able to panic. Like, me panicking is not helping my person who's stuck in Boston that lives in Phoenix. So it's just like, okay, figuring out like, this is what I need to do. This is who I need to talk to. This is who I need to get in touch with to like get their flight rebooked. Went in, I think I took like my vice president's like corporate card, and I'm like buying all these flights, getting my people home, where I found that at the exact same time, one of my peers that was still in Ohio, she like lost her crap behind the situation. And it was like, there was just like emails about being disappointed about our management team and like all this other stuff. And it was just like, that's not helpful right now. And I realized, I think it was like that moment that I realized like, everybody doesn't think the way that I think. Right? Like, they needed somebody to come in, see the mess that was going on, and be able to take charge and like give direction and fix it. Right? Like, here's the solution to this problem. Here's how we're going to solve it. This is what we need to do. Let's do it. And we can fuss and we can figure out, we can point fingers if we feel that's necessary after the fact. But my people are home and they're where they're supposed to be, and they're not stranded, and they're not this and they're not that. And so then it was just like, oh, this is like what I bring to the table. Like, everybody can't do this. Everybody doesn't do this. And it's like, this is not annoying. Like, this is actually a really great asset.
Right.
And I think that was probably the turning point where it was just like, okay, like, this is kind of my thing, right? I'm a problem solver.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So out there in Facebook world, I'm curious to know, have you identify your gift or your unicorn power, or are you still searching for that power? Let us know. Hit us up in the comments. So you were at JP Morgan. So, you were there, you were thriving. Had entrepreneurship always been in your head, or did it kind of grow while you were there? How did that decision to kind of go
Um,
out on your own come up?
yeah, I think that so before, I went to the bank, like I was already doing my own thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I joke that I kind of got bullied into starting my business because the problem solving that I was doing for friends of mine that just happen to be business owners. Like I would go to their office and see like how their desk was. I'm like, I don't understand how you can work in this. And it's like, let me help you like put a system together that can file your clients so that you know what you're looking for afterwards, or let me help you with this. And it was just like situation after situation after situation of like seeing that. Like a friend of mine, we were sitting down and we were talking about things that need to be done for his graphic design business. And he's like, well, Lisa, you should be doing this as a business, right? And I'm like, nah. Because at that point, I was still like, no, like nobody needs this. Like, no, no, no. And
Mhm.
he's just like, no, seriously, like you've done this for this person, you've done this for that person, you've done this for this person. Like, you should be doing this. And I'm like, eh. And I blew him off when he first said it, but like the thought kept bugging me, like, could
Mhm.
I do this as a business? And so I started asking around and kind of put some feelers out there, and people are like, oh my God, like I totally need this. And I'm like, really? Because again, I didn't realize that like
Right.
everybody doesn't think that way. Like when they see a problem pop up, like they don't just automatically like do this, this, and this. Like that's not how it works. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. And so like I had already started, but like I said, when '08 hit, it hit business owners really hard too. And so, hey, if you don't need an operations person helping with something, or like your cash flow looks a certain kind of way in the business, you start cutting,
Mhm.
different things. And so my relationships like started getting cut, and not because of performance or anything. It's just they just couldn't afford to continue working with me, not bringing money into their own business. And so at that point, the entrepreneurial bug had already
Mhm.
bit me, but I didn't realize how big of an asset that I could be to small business owners in the marketplace until my time at Chase was over, if that makes any sense. Like, I think it was kind of like a training ground, and I didn't even realize it because
Mhm.
the skills that I was able to hone and sharpen while I was there with the strategic thinking, because stuff happened all the time, and dealing with change management and like high pressure and like um, project managing like these various different like things like that, were high level, high visibility. It's just like, oh, like that solopreneur, that woman that is like overwhelmed with like not having systems and not having support and doing everything on her own, like she needs me.
Mhm.
And so, that it was much easier transition going back into entrepreneurship, like once I decided to leave.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love your niche, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
I loved it because when I met you, you were the first person I'd ever heard of that was doing something around systems and business. So I thought it was a very interesting, I guess, aspect of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Now hearing your story, yeah, you are definitely meant to do this that you're doing, and
Yeah.
it is definitely needed.
Yeah.
So, in your process, because I imagine, you said you started in 2005, 2008, and we're now in 2020. I can imagine that, where you were then and where you are now, it's been a lot of growth in that process. Is
Mhm.
there something that sticks out in your mind as kind of like a big learning that you experienced while you were in the process of developing your business and growing your business to where you are now?
Um, I would say something that is like a teachable moment, that is kind of like a reoccurring thing is
Mhm.
grace. And realizing that I need to extend it to myself like literally every single day. Even though like I'm a systems person,
Mhm.
you would expect my systems to like be perfect, like literally from day one. And that hasn't always been the case.
Right.
Um, the things that I have like set up in the business now seem pretty flawless, especially for others like looking from the outside in. But there have been many times where like I was like my own worst client, and it's
Mhm.
like I don't have a procedure written for this. I don't have a process mapped out for this. But it wasn't until I actually started bringing on team to support me, and, sitting down and making myself like map things out, writing procedures, and like delegating that kind of stuff, that was like, okay, like this has to be concrete for me as well. But Grace is probably like my learning, my lesson, like every day. Like I have to extend grace to myself, like, because I'm not going to hit the mark. And I have to accept being, perfectly imperfect, and, live to fight another day. Like, okay, like this wasn't the best day. Let's go ahead and dust it off, and tomorrow will be better.
Right. And that the grace thing every day for me as well, because I'm a recovering perfectionist. And, it's hard because I'm so used to wanting to get that A and wanting to get it done right the first time and quickly, and wanting to do it on my own. And you brought up delegation. And as a recovering perfectionist, it's hard to delegate stuff out. So how did you, I don't say get the courage, but get the mindset that you were able to delegate and let some things go?
Yeah. Sometimes I learn things the hard way. So you're a recovering perfectionist. I'm a recovering overfunctioner. And so I think that the lesson really kind of hit home with me preparing for my first pregnancy with my son. And, I'm like 6, 7, 8 months pregnant, walking around, still having sales calls. And, it's kind of like the elephant in the room. Like they're looking at me and like looking at my, like, so how exactly are you going to support me? Like when all this like happens, like, oh, it'll be fine. And, I had hired a subcontractor, because that was kind of like my selling point. Like I've got a subcontractor, it's coming on, it's going to help me, blah, 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 blah. I'll be able to train them on the things that, we're doing for you, and they'll be able to step in for me while I'm away on maternity leave. However, it really was a lot of lip service because I had no intention on using her to do anything. It was one of those things like, I'll keep her in my back pocket if I need her, but I never intended to need her. So, there was training that happened and, got her up to speed on certain things, but it was kind of like, yeah, but I'm not going to need you, like, because I can do this on my own. And I've been doing this on my own for years. And this little baby is not going to like put a wrench in anything because I've been like over here kicking ass, like the whole pregnancy, like nothing has slowed me down. Like when he gets here, it's not going to be any different. Wrong.
That's not what happened? No.
Wrong. I remember he was maybe like 3, 4 months, and he was like overstimulated. I hadn't gotten a chance to put him down for a nap yet. I had a meeting with a client that was coming up in like 20 minutes. He's crying. I'm trying to like nurse him and get him to sleep. The countdown is like happening. Like this meeting is getting ready. It's getting closer and closer and closer. And like, I'm like nursing him, and I'm like trying to like post something on Instagram for a client. And every time I would post it, the hashtags would disappear. And so like, I'm getting tense. The baby is like sensing like the tension, and like his energy he's not being soothed. Like he's like just as amped up as I am, and he won't go to sleep. And now it's like 15 minutes on my meeting and 10 minutes on my meeting, and it's 5 minutes on my meeting, and like I'm reposting and reposting, deleting, reposting, like the hashtags just keep on disappearing, and I lost it. I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes before like this call, and I'm like in my son's nursery, and I'm just crying.
Oh no.
And my husband is just like, he comes in, he's just like, is something wrong with Adrian? I'm like, no. He was like, is something wrong with you? I was like, I can't do this. And he's just like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, in this I can't post this to Instagram and I'm like, it's like I almost had like an out of body experience. Like, you're crying over a hashtag? Like, this is not okay. And it was just like, you can't keep doing all this stuff you don't have anything to prove to anybody, right? So go ahead and start building the support that you actually need. Like being a solopreneur, it was great for when you started, but like, that's not where I'm trying to continue. Like 20 years from now, I'm not still trying to be a solopreneur being in the weeds in the trenches, doing everything on my own.
Right.
And so it's like I needed to surround myself with the support that I needed and to get stuff off my plate. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I think that I had to go through that. Like, yeah, I don't have to be the superwoman and keep, I can take my cape off and I can ask for help and I can surround myself with the people who are skilled and can do this work as well and like save my sanity. So
Right.
that's what I started doing. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. So having a team, delegating, being okay with delegating. Yeah, because you do a lot. Okay, let's think about this, right?
Okay.
Your mom, your wife. Well, you're a mom to a human child, a mom to a fur baby, a wife, an entrepreneur. Your husband's an entrepreneur, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And you are a coach and a podcast host. And let's pause right there actually, because we talked about boss talk in the beginning, but I think a lot of the audience may not know what boss talk is. So can you tell them a little bit about your podcast, showing what boss talk is about?
Yeah, so Boss Talk, it's a community for it's a community for entrepreneurial women. Um, I launched it. It's been almost 2 years. This July it'll be 2 years. And prior to that, I was a co-leader with a friend of mine of more like traditional networking event where you kind of come in, you have like a pitch, you got your business cards that you're passing out to people. Somebody might stand up and do like a presentation, like, hey, this is the product that I sell, or like whatever. And you walk away with a better understanding of how maybe you can refer something to somebody. But that's it. And it seemed it wasn't enough for me. Like I needed more from my networking experience. And primarily what I needed was the stories behind, hey, like I saw on Instagram that you just launched a book. I didn't know how that happened. Like, how does that happen? Or I saw that you just had a TED talk, or this just happened, or that just happened. Like, I want to talk to you about that. Like, I don't really care about that product that you're selling. Like,
Right.
I want to know what that journey was like that got you to that stage, or that got you to that book, or that got you to like seeing this milestone happen. And so that was the beginning of it. And so like there were a few women that I knew their story and I thought that they would be inspirational for other women to hear. And so we kind of talk about the good, the bad, and the real with entrepreneurship. And it's just like we talk about, how do you feel? Like, what does overwhelm look like for you in your business? How do you deal with it? Like, what are things that you struggle with? What was your biggest failure in business, and what did you learn from it? Because I don't want to just see that, hey, you launched this book. I want you to tell us like about all the hours that you spent writing it and all of the rejections that you got from traditional publishers, or, what this journey actually was like, or that you stopped writing it for like 2 years and then picked it back up. Like, what was it? What did that look like to actually get to that highlight that we now get to see on your Instagram feed? And so, yeah, so we're 2 years strong now of sitting down and actually having those real discussions, and also talking about like, what does your self-care look like? Because to me, you can't fulfill the vision that you have for your business if you are forsaking the visionary. Like, you have to take care of yourself in this process. So, like, I don't subscribe to like that hustle mentality or like team no sleep. Like, no, like there's a better way to like get those things done other than like killing yourself because you were like going nonstop at an unsustainable pace. So we talk about all those things during each interview. And, those are the stories that resonate with other women, because it's like, oh yeah, like I struggle with that too, or I've like had like that same experience. And it's just like, if you can do it and I see the struggles that you had and you were able to overcome them and you still made it happen, I can do them too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think some people are agreeing with you. Diana said, the day when I decided to put back the S on my Superman chest, that day when I decided, what do you mean, Diana? That day when I decided to put back the S on my Superman chest? Let me know what you mean with that. But Diana was also agreeing with you extending grace. And Stephanie said you are absolutely an organizer. Um, and they're asking about the Boss Talk. Is there a Facebook page, or how
Yeah,
do they?
there
Okay.
is. I think it's under it's just Boss Talk, BOSSTALK.
Okay.
Um,
And we'll be sure to put that in the comments
yeah,
and the show notes for you.
yeah.
And you brought up self-care, which is exactly where I wanted to go.
Yay!
Because, and I've told you this before, you will forever and eternally be my self-care guru because you changed my mind about self-care with that post that you did a while ago, where you were talking about self-care is really about what energizes you.
Mhm.
And I think I was probably still working in corporate and just stressed out. And I read that and I was like, you mean I don't have to get a massage for it to be self-care? Because I hate massages. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't like massages. They do nothing for me. But to hear that it's something that can energize you kind of changed my philosophy.
Mhm.
So from your perspective, how would you describe self-care to someone to help them understand it doesn't have to be what everyone else is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing would be honestly that self-care, it needs to be on your own terms.
Hmm.
Because similar, to the experience that you had, I was able to experience like a client's like aha moment around their self-care. They came in and like their verbiage was, I suck at self-care, I suck at self-care, I suck at self-care. And it's like, well, let's
Hmm.
talk about it. And it's like, well, what does your self-care practice look like? What are you doing? And they were exercising every day and they were going out and getting, sunshine like intentionally. And they were also going to the chiropractor
Hmm.
monthly because, they felt like it helped them to relieve stress to go and get adjusted. And I'm just listening to these things that they're doing. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so why exactly do you suck at self-care? And they're like, well, because I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it right. And I'm
Right.
like, but who said? And like, she's looking at me like, what do you mean who said?
Right.
And I'm like,
It's written out
who
everywhere.
told you? Yeah. Who told you that you're not doing self-care right? And she's just like, what? And
Right.
so, she had that epiphany. I call it like the revelation of self-care is that she can do self-care on her own terms, and what makes her feel good. That's what her self-care is. And so that's usually where we start is like, how do you define it? Because the way that I define self-care and the things that I do for self-care, like that's for La Vista. But
Right.
it doesn't mean that like everybody who follows me or that's connected with me should do the things that I do because we're not the same person.
Mhm.
Um, and if you do self-care like on somebody else's terms, and like you're saying, like you don't like massages. So if you were listening to the they and they are telling you that self-care is a massage once every 3 weeks, and you're like, okay, here I am for this massage. I freaking hate this,
Right.
but this is what self-care is, so I gotta
Right.
do it so I can take care of myself. It's not going to work because it's not something that speaks to you or resonates with you. It doesn't bring you any joy, and you literally are just wasting your time and a whole bunch of money. So
Mm.
it really is like the basic thing of defining self-care for yourself. Like, what does it actually mean to you when you think about self-care? And then um, where I usually start with clients is helping them get reacquainted with like what I call their joy list. And so over time, especially we as women, as we start developing like more um, deeper like relationships, we're going after different careers, like other things are like demanding our time. We start to have families. We lose little pieces of ourselves along the way. So, you have a significant relationship that starts, and instead of doing as much as like the stuff that you like doing, you start doing the stuff that they like doing more because you want to spend time together. And so maybe you used to really love crossword puzzles, but that crossword puzzle time is now spent at the racetrack because the guy that you're dating really likes racing cars and you want to go and see your boo race and all that other stuff. And you haven't done a word cross puzzle in like years, right? And then like your career, like there's more and more demands on your time. And so that kind of stuff takes priority. And maybe like your thing was like going for a walk in the neighborhood, you know, or the park, but you haven't done that in forever because you just don't have any time to do it because you're so preoccupied and pulled in all these different directions. You have kids, you add kids into the mix, and like, you know, you want to support and do the stuff that your kids like to do. Like my son, even at 4, he loves video games. I personally can't stand video games, but to do something and spend time with my son, we sit and we play video games. It doesn't bring any joy to me, but it makes him like giggle and laugh, and seeing him happy does bring me a sense of happiness. But if we forget to like put ourselves in there, like our self-care and the things that, you know, bring us joy just kind of like fall by the wayside. And so that's, you know, after they define what their self-care is, I have them get reacquainted with their joy list. Like, what brings you joy? And then having them start to like incorporate those things in their life. And there's a simple framework that I created for those that I coach with. That's the S.P.A method. And so it's, you know, it really is kind of like a Kickstarter, right, for your self-care, especially if like you really just don't know what to do. And it's doing something smart, doing something physical, and doing something affirming for yourself every day. And so like if you can start like getting into the habit of doing those things, then you're able to like add some more ritual kind of stuff into your day. And it's just part of your lifestyle, because your self-care should never feel like just one more thing that you're adding, you know, to your checklist. Like, okay, like I did the dishes, I did this report for my business, and I took the kids to soccer practice, and I did self-care. Like, because if that's the way that it feels, you probably need some adjustments in there into how you're actually approaching taking care of yourself. I wrote a book about it, about how to actually incorporate and infuse your self-care into your actual business.
The new one or the old one?
What's that?
The new one or the old one?
The old one, selfish. Yeah, so it's talking about getting selfish. Yeah. Prioritizing yourself. And it's a free download. You can just go to the website and get it. And it walks you through some rituals that actually help to bring self-care into your business so that they're infused, because they shouldn't be separate, because your business is just an extension of you and your experiences and, you know, your purpose. You know, your self-care is like tied in there too. So, those are ways that like I help the clients that I work with like build that self-care foundation with really everybody that I start working with.
Gotcha. Okay. And you brought up a good thing I want to repeat again, but guys out there, I want to hear what your self-care is. I see Diana is saying her self-care is painting and going on long walks. I love that. And yeah, acting. She got back to us about the overwhelmed, acting like a Superman. Yeah, we all go through that. But yeah, I want to hear what you guys' self-care is. And then I want to hear, you know, what kind of keeps you from getting that self-care into your schedule? What's your roadblock? And I wanted to go back to a point that you said, Lavista, you know, your S.P.A method. I want to make sure that they get that. You said S.P.A is do something
smart,
physical,
and affirming.
Okay, gotcha. So that's like a very easy thing to remember, because one of the questions I was going to ask you, you know, is oftentimes we were just talking, we think of self-care as something grandiose and large, but sometimes in the heat of the moment or in certain situations, whether it's in traffic or, you know, at a meeting or something, you need like ways of having instantaneous, immediate, like rapid self-care techniques. Would that work in that scenario, or is there something else that you would suggest for that instantaneous getting back to yourself and just being aware and I guess instantaneous self-care? Is there anything that you would suggest for that?
Yeah, I think that method can be applied for like spontaneous stuff that you need. But I think that, so here's a train of thought on that if you are kind of feeling like, oh, like I need to like do self-care, it means that you're probably deficient in your self-care practices. And so when I'm working with someone, it really is, what are the rituals that you need to do that you just build into your day? Because then doing that as just part of like your lifestyle, you're constantly taking care of yourself. And so like you're constantly just like putting love tokens in the bank for yourself, like take care of myself, take care of myself, take care of myself. And because it becomes just like just as routine as like brushing your teeth, right? That's just the way you take care of yourself. It's just what I do. And so then you don't feel like this anxiety of like, I've got to like do something to take care of myself, because you're doing it like every single day, like different things that you're doing them intentionally that are taking care of yourself every day throughout the day.
Right. No, that makes sense. That's a good point. I
Yeah.
love you said your love tokens into your bank
Yes.
every day. I might have to steal that one for
Yeah.
myself.
Well, because a lot of the coaching that I do, also like we look at love languages, right? Like, and I think that we look at love languages and we're most familiar with them in the context of like a significant relationship with someone else. Like you need, like if you're married, you need to, be proficient in your spouse's love language or your child's love language. Well, you have love languages too, so you should be just as proficient in your own as you are in other people's, and using that lens to like take care of yourself, right? And speaking your own love language like every single day. And so you are depositing those tokens in your own love bank, in a sense, like you're building a life that you don't have to like escape from, right? Because I think
Right.
that we have that pressure, like my self-care has to be like this audacious like trip or like 2 days at a spa, because
Right.
like you are just so just like empty. You're so empty. And like nothing against spa, like I love a good spa day. But a spa day once every 6 months, that's not sustainable.
Right.
Like that makes you feel good that day, maybe the next day. But if you're not consciously and purposely doing things every day, that spa day is not going to really do you any good.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about myself being empty, but I personally have been lacking my own self-care since, venturing out of corporate. I've kind of just dug into work, and I really need to get back to my own self-care, which for me is dance. So I need to bring that back into my life. So I will be depositing my dance token of love tomorrow morning for myself.
Yes, yes, I love it.
Now, I know that you have something major coming up that can help women in terms of being able to tap into their self-care and taking a little bit of time for themselves. And it's happening this Saturday, if I'm correct. Right?
It is. So, especially now that we are in, still in pandemic mode, there is a breathe retreat that I am hosting this weekend. So this is the second one that I am doing. I did one back in May and it was phenomenal. And so it's short, because I don't think that your self-care has to be expensive or complicated or super time consuming. Like, so it's just 90 minutes. It is a virtual retreat. So you would do it in the privacy of your own home, over Zoom with me and with the other group of women that are there. And I'm going to walk you through some very specific rituals that we'll do together to just give you a moment to kind of steal away, take a pause, take some rest, actually breathe. Like we actually will do breathing exercises while we're together, because you don't realize how much you don't actually like just stop and just like breathe. Like you kind of just take like breath for granted sometimes. And like, when's the last time you just stop and took like a deep breath? And like breathing is so healing to just like your mind and your body. And, so that definitely is going to be one of the things we'll focus on. And, if you have like a coffee habit, like for a week's worth of coffee, you can come to the retreat and like you will be refreshed afterwards and be able to go on with the rest of your day. So
Great. And I didn't get to make it to the last one, but I heard it was amazing. So if you can make it this Saturday to that retreat, I would highly, highly suggest it. Like she said, it's not long, 90 minutes, right? That's what you said?
90
Okay.
minutes.
Gotcha. And I'm just going to the comments because I want to hear what people's self-care ideas are. So we have some people that do virtual workouts and journaling from Leah. We have listening to music and walking. We already talked about Diana's painting and long walks. But, and yes, consistency is key, Lori. That is very important. And there's one comment in here from Leah that I hope we can sort of tackle. She says, as a single mother, time is precious and it's hard to create pockets of time to take care of me. Any suggestions on sort of how we can overcome that time challenge?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, to finding ways that we actually incorporate taking care of ourselves just in like our day to day. And so it could be, not knowing Leah or Lee. I don't know if I'm which one I'm saying, Leah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not really knowing her. I don't know her love languages. I don't, know things that are on her joy list, but they could be something as simple as like making sure that you stop during your day and take a lunch. Right? Like that actually is a form of self-care, like sitting and taking a lunch. And, being a mom myself, it's one of those things that like your kids will see you mirroring or see you doing that, and then they'll mirror that behavior. So it's setting a really good foundation for them of like, hey, like I see my mom taking care of herself. Like she's busy. She's like trying to like make things happen, taking care of us. But she took this 15 minutes to have lunch. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take lunch, and I'm going to make sure that lunch is a priority for me when I'm like out in corporate or, running my own business, and I'm not going to work like 12, 16, 18-hour days without stopping and eating. Right. Another thing, like, if we're talking about spa specifically, maybe the smart thing, maybe you love to read. I love to read, and I'm not a single mom, but, I have I think most energetic 4-year-old on the planet. And, there's not a lot of private time that I have for myself. Like even if I'm in the bathroom, like there are fingers and hands that come under the door, and sometimes objects that are placed under the door. And it's like, can't I have like 2 seconds to myself? Like for the love of all things holy, there's a total other like human in this house that you can go and be with. Like leave me alone. And so I will I have books in there. And so like if reading is your thing, like we all go to the bathroom. So it's kind of like a twofer, if you will, like but read something while you're in there. Or affirmations is like my love language. And so one of the ways that I make sure that I'm speaking affirming things to myself every day is I write stuff out on my bathroom mirror. And so things that resonate with me, quotes, things like that, either I keep my dry erase marker in there and I'll write it on there, or write it on a Post-it and stick it on there, kind of like being Mary Jane. Right? And so, I've got stuff on there. So like I'm sitting there doing my routine, I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm reading something that is reflecting truth back to me every single day. And as you continue to do that and you build and you strengthen that routine, you will be amazed at how those tokens every day, even simple things like that, are making those deposits and like filling you up. Right. So, I think that sometimes we think that, your self-care has to be like we were saying, like this big audacious kind of thing. Like, I don't have half a day to like focus on, self-care, do that. But like, I got 5 minutes that I can like repeat a mantra or say something affirming to myself, right?
Right.
Maybe if you work in a building, instead of taking the elevator, like you take the stair, like that's how you get your physical in. Like maybe you walk up those 3 flight of stairs instead of doing the elevator. And it's just like, hey, if I didn't get to do anything else physical for myself today, I did this. And so there are ways to fit those things in to take care of yourself that aren't super, super time consuming. And, if you have questions after this, feel free to reach out. I would suggest getting that book, grab Selfish, and download it and walk through some of those rituals in there, because those are things you might be able to start actually incorporating just in your day to day to start really building a solid self-care routine for yourself.
Yeah. And it's funny you brought up Mary Jane. So when I saw that, I actually started doing the Post-its on my mirror. And I
Mhm.
stopped for some reason, and I need to go back to it. But it's funny that my husband started looking at those as well. So it wasn't only like impacting me, it was impacting him. And when I stopped doing it, he's like, "Where are the Post-its? Like, where'd they go?" And you don't
Mhm.
realize what you are doing, how it's impacting others, how it can be improving their life as well. So I love that you brought that up. 'Cause I think that's a very easy thing that we can do. It doesn't take a lot of time to get,
Yep.
that feed that back into yourself and use it as a love token. So
Yeah.
I love it. So I have one last serious question for you. Um,
Okay.
just to think about, like I said, you've done so much, you have so many different projects going on. As you reflect back, over the past 15 years or so,
Mhm.
can you just tell us like what's the one thing you're most proud of?
Um, I think it would be finding my voice.
Hmm,
Yeah.
okay.
Um, Finding my voice, understanding, really like understanding and uncovering like what my purpose is, and finding my voice and not being afraid to say like, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I can help, right?
Mhm.
And even if nobody responds to my message, like being okay with getting it out there and like speaking my truth.
Right.
um, because that's taken a while, for that to happen. So I think that that's probably um, yeah, that's probably one of the biggest, um, like wins or
Right.
whatever for me. Yeah.
Right. Got it. Yeah, because your voice is needed. Your voice, your skill set, your shows, your books is all needed, as you can see by the comments and questions. So I appreciate you sharing all those different thoughts and tips for the viewers. And like I say, everybody, we're going to put all those links to the resources, the website, the Boss Talk podcast, the book, all that's going to be available to you. I'll put that in the links or the comments. So don't feel like you have to write everything down right now. And if you have been with us on the previous shows, then you know that we cannot let LaVista go without having her answer our Fab Four questions.
Oh,
So, LaVista, are you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
Okay. We just want to. We've been talking about self-care and your transition, and now it's just the time for us to have a little bit of fun and a little bit more of a peek into your personality and everything like that. And I'm crazy and quirky, so I like to do crazy stuff.
I'm
What's
with
next? Okay. It's very easy, whatever comes to your mind. The first question is, if you had one superpower, what would it be?
it would be to stop time.
Really? Just to stop it? Like, you just want to stay this age forever? Like that's
No, to stop time like in moments, right?
okay.
Like, where you're like boom and like time just like stops.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I like that. That's the first time I've heard that one. So I like that one. Okay. Next question. If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be?
The first one would be my mama,
Okay.
because I would want her to know I'm good, right?
Yeah.
Your baby girl is okay,
Right.
and she's happy. The second person I think would be Michelle Obama, because I think that the idea of like just sitting with her and being in her presence and like her poise and her realness, like to me that feels like a warm, familiar hug, and I want like all of that. And I think that the third person would be Lisa Nichols. She's a motivational speaker and a coach as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for her, like I would want to spend that time with her, thanking her for helping me to see like my strengths
Mm.
and owning my yeses, even when other people are telling me no.
Mm. Owning your yeses when other people are telling you no. I like that one. Okay. So your mom, Michelle, and Lisa Nichols. All right. It's a good list. As long as I'm invited when you meet Michelle, we'll ask for.
I have to tell you the story about Michelle Obama's book, The Becoming Book, and
Uh-huh.
my husband. Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that after the show.
Yeah.
Okay, this one stumps everyone, so don't. It's okay.
Okay.
If you had to choose a song to represent your life, sort of a theme song for your life, what would it be?
It would be Beyonce's "I Was Here."
Huh? I'm not familiar with that one.
So, like, the lyrics are, I want to leave my footprints on the sand of time. Know that there was something said, something that I left behind. And when I leave this world, I leave no regrets and leave something to remember so they won't forget that I was here, that I lived, I loved, I did, and I've done everything that I wanted to do. And it was more than I thought it would be. And I will leave my mark so that everyone will know that I was here. Yeah.
I got chills.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, it's so funny. All the songs that people have sung, not sung, but have talked about on this show. I need to write a list and just provide it to the group because all the songs are so empowering. And for me, music speaks volumes. And to have like this playlist of amazing songs that just inspire you. Awesome. So yeah.
It could be the podcast playlist that you could put out on Spotify.
Okay. If you guys want a list of all the songs that people are saying, hit me up in the comments so I'll know if it's something you guys want to see because I'd be happy to pull that together. Okay, nice. Last question.
Okay.
Just finish the statements.
Okay.
I love
my family.
Okay. I dream about
my son's future.
Oh. And I am
living my best life.
Hey. All right now. I like that. Lavisa is living her best life.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you know, Lavisa, thank you so much for being here. Any last thoughts that you want to share with the group?
You know, I think I've said it before, but I think it's worth repeating that, you know, especially when we're talking about self-care, your self-care does not have to be, you know, complicated or expensive, but it does have to be intentional. Right? Like you do have to be intentional about it and be consistent with it for it to make an impact. And it has to be on your own terms.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you so much, Lavisa, for being here. Just in case people want to hear it right now, just where can they continue to follow you? We talked about the Boss Talk Facebook page. What's your website?
Yeah, you know what? They can find me anywhere on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, Lavisa Jones. They can go, LavisaJones.com. They can Lavisa Jones on Instagram, Lavisa Jones on Facebook. That's where I am. Like I try to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah, that's me.
That makes it easy. So if you want to stay in touch with Lavisa and kind of know what's going on with her and, you know, just interact and connect with her, please follow her on those social media platforms. That is all the time we have for today. I'm so glad that you are here, like I say, on my very first episode of the official show. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to be here every Thursday night at 6:30 for the rest of the year. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. We have some great shows coming up. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek, our topics that are coming up soon will be on health and wellness. We have a career transition. We have a Jane of all trades from a creative perspective, which is going to be awesome. And we even have somebody coming in and talking about finances and how that relates to, you know, having the courage to do career transitions and start something new, because that's often a challenge that we face when thinking about doing some new things. So be sure to stay tuned. If you are not connected with me, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Dr. Erika by Design. Also on LinkedIn, Erika Brown. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your feedback, your questions, your topics. What else do you want to hear about? What other people do you want to see on this show? Like I say, this show is not just for me. It's for all of you guys. So the more I hear from you, the better the show will get, the more fun we'll have, the more conversations we'll have. I mean, we can even get Michelle Obama up here, you know.
Yes.
That's the goal, okay? So let's get that out there in the atmosphere. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. Stay connected, follow us. And, also, if you haven't connected with me on the website and the newsletter, head over to www.drerikabydesign.com and get on the newsletter so you won't miss anything that's going on. So with that, it's been a great night. Love you guys. Thanks so much. And we will see you next Thursday. Bye, everybody.